You've been a real leader in creating this global community around Kemetic yoga. I just want to start with, you've done so much for us. You have offered so much to our world. You have been the foremost Kemetic yoga teacher for decades now, I think for over 50 years. Can you enlighten us, oh wise one, regarding what keeps you going in life and what keeps you inspired to keep leading Kemetic yoga as well?
Well, what keeps me going in life in general is simply I just enjoy my life, So I'm still having fun. I'm still getting satisfaction from the things that I do and the experiences that I have. So as long as I'm having fun, long as I'm enjoying myself, then I am going to continue doing what I'm doing. The other thing is that I created a mission for myself. And my mission is to spread Kemetic yoga. And the genesis of my mission that I appointed for myself is that I want to be a servant for our community.
Mm.
And it hurts me when I see our community in a state of ignorance about health and about well-being. It hurts me when I see people suffering from things which are preventable. And it hurts me when I see people making decisions about what to do with their bodies, how to feed their bodies, what type of things to put into their body, and they cause disease, they cause mental health issues, and so on and so forth. So for me, my little niche of the universe is Kemetic yoga. And I see Kemetic yoga as a vehicle to help people. So I figured that the more people who are teaching Kemetic yoga is going to translate into more people who are going to become exposed to Kemetic yoga from the teachers that are moving all over the planet.
So I want you to go into what Kemetic yoga is in just a moment. But when you were speaking, you were saying that you made a commitment to yourself. You had a personal mission, which I think is powerful in and of itself. And we can just learn from that. Having a personal mission for your life that you were going to set out to spread the philosophy of Kemetic yoga. Tell us why, right? Why did you decide that I'm going to commit my life to spreading what Kemetic yoga is? Now, you're going to tell us what Kemetic yoga is in a minute, but when someone says that they've committed their lives to doing something, usually there's a catalyst. When I think about my life, creating freedom at the mat for women's wellness, it's rooted in having 3 generations of women who died at 65, mother, sister, grandmother. So I knew that I had to do something to create the change in my life. So are you willing to share with us what your catalyst might have been?
Well, I don't know if it was one catalyst, but I know that through my own meditation, right, I try to discover, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? There was a period of time in my life when I was young where I wanted to be a advertising executive. I wanted to be into marketing because I have an uncle that does that, and I wanted to make a lot of money and drive flashy cars and stuff like that, But I wound up becoming a social worker, and I wound up teaching yoga. So it was through my meditation that I think I was sent the message that I needed to really be focused on Kemetic yoga. And I know I could have done other forms of yoga.
Yeah.
But and I think financially I would have got a greater reward from doing those forms of yoga that people are used to, that are mainstream. But I felt that for our community, there was a need to present yoga from a perspective of Africa and from a perspective that we can relate to, and not from having to use Hinduism or Sanskrit and stuff like that.
Got it. So let's talk about it. For those who have never heard what Kemetic yoga is, will you share? Just assume that, we have a global community and they've never heard of Kemetic yoga. What is it? What's its history? And why did you coin the term Kemetic yoga?
Well, the original one of the three original names for the country that we now call Egypt is Kemet. And Kemet is spelled Kemet, Kemet. And Kemet means the land of the blacks or the black land. So prior to this country in northeastern Africa being named Egypt by people who invaded, who were called Greeks, its name was Kemet. And so when we examined the record from ancient Egypt, the record from ancient Kemet, prior to the invasion and the takeover of that land by various groups of non-African people, we could see that they had a yoga practice there. We could see that the philosophy that they engaged in was very similar to the philosophy of yoga. We could see when we look at the images on the walls of the temples and in the ancient text that they were doing movements and postures that had yogic effects. So when I say that, I'm talking about alignment of the spine, releasing tension from the body, stimulation of the organs, the movement of life force or energy through the energy channels of the body. These are all things that we talk about in the practice of yoga in general. And we can see the presence of these things in the ancient Kemetic record. And so that drove our research to go deeper and go beyond what was only written in the books. So we did primary research that nobody else had been doing before.
When you conducted primary research, tell us what that looked like, because I think it's going to be helpful for people to understand that this wasn't just something you came up with, right? Because I think what we know is that many people, I'm a formally trained vinyasa yoga teacher, 200 RYT, and everything I was taught was that yoga all comes from India. So this primary research you conducted, can you share more with us about that?
Well, the first thing is, we learned how to read and write and translate what we call Medu nature. So that's what the other people call hieroglyphs. So what people call hieroglyphs, the proper name from the African perspective of the people who created it, they didn't call it hieroglyphs. They called it Medu nature. In different postures, we see their bodies in different positions, but the most important aspect of Kemetic yoga is the idea of Ma'at. What he's talking about, ancient African yoga, is based upon a philosophical and metaphysical understanding of the nature of the universe and our place as human beings within the universe.
The symbol of Ma'at, it was a woman with the ostrich feather on her head. Another principle was called Shu, and Shu also has an ostrich feather on his head. How you cultivate Ma'at in your entire being? You must use your breath, and you always look to the image in ancient Kemet. They always put emphasis on the life force coming into the nostrils. All the temples, we can see the same thing. The Necheru, or the principles and laws of the universe, the forces of nature, sending energy, sending life force to the rulers or so-called kings and queens. So
we learn how to read and translate those sacred writings, okay? And then we examined the images. And when we see images of a person on the wall or the temple, and they are in a particular posture, we would try to do that posture. And because we had developed a certain level of expertise in yoga in general, we can see that this particular posture that we may be looking at is actually a yoga pose, because when you practice yoga, it's supposed to have certain anatomical, physiological, and bioenergetic effects. And so we could see that those effects were taking place when we copied the postures that we saw on the walls of the temples and in the ancient texts.
Wow.
We were able to see the symbols that we can relate to as, say, the crown chakra. In ancient Kemet, you can see this circle above the head, right? And it's called the Aten, A-T-N, and it represents the sun, okay? But it also represents enlightenment. So
Got
when
it.
you practice yoga, your goal is to raise your Kundalini energy up to the crown of your head. And they use the metaphor of 1,000-petaled lotus opening up. So the people of ancient Kemet, they use the metaphor of a sunrise above the head, and they called it the Aten. Also, in mainstream yoga, they talk about the nadis. So they say you have a primary nadi or energy channel that runs up your spine.
Correct.
You have the Ida and the Pingala that
Yes.
correspond to your left or right nostril.
Yes.
Well, we see these same images in Kemet. We see references to the Sushumna Nadi in the spine. We see references to the Ida and the Pingala, the moon and sun nadis that correspond to your left and right nostril. So if you're doing primary research, you're just looking at the evidence that was left by the ancestors, you can see what they were trying to say. And the final thing I'm going to say is that you have what we call esoteric knowledge, and we have exoteric knowledge. So when you're dealing with esoteric, which is the subliminal information that you're receiving that's not being stated obviously or verbatim, you can see this hidden meaning behind the images and the symbols that you're looking at, because you're using your own internal senses, you're using your own intuition, you're using your own psychic abilities to understand and to comprehend what it is that you're seeing. And a lot of language, a lot of esoteric knowledge is only presented in a way where those who are able to see are able to see.
Got it. Got it. Those who are really enlightened. I got you. I'm here for it. Okay, so can you tell us when you were doing this research? Because you started this mission. When did you start the mission, and when were you doing this research?
So I started when I turned 21. I didn't get into yoga till I was around 22, right? So it's about 50 years ago. But at 21, I started the path of becoming a vegan. I started the path of eliminating old habits and to becoming healthy. I made a commitment to myself that I was going to become healthy, that I was going to only consume fresh fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and whole grains exclusively. No meat, no dairy, no fish, no eggs, none of that stuff, right?
How did you make that decision at such a young age? What happened? How did you get there?
The only thing that happened is that I made a decision that I needed to change because my goal, when I looked around me, number one, I looked at myself and I was doing things that were unhealthy. And I could see the unhealthiness expressing itself within my body, even though I was only 20, I was only 20 years old.
That's
21.
why I'm asking. I don't want to interrupt you. I was asking because I'm like at 21, like people make that change around 45, 50 after they get a diabetes diagnosis or they had a stroke. But for 21 years old, like how incredible for you to be like, okay, I can see how this is going to affect me long term. I see a little bit now and I'm going to make this change now.
Because I didn't want to be, I didn't want to wind up like all the people that I was looking at.
Yeah,
I'm looking at all these people being obese, dying prematurely, suffering prematurely, and all this kind of stuff. So I just decided I don't want to be in that category.
correct. And it's in Chicago, right? In Chicago?
This is in Chicago.
Okay.
And I was the only person I knew who there was nobody else around me who was a vegetarian or a vegan. And I actually became a fruitarian because I didn't even know there was a such thing as a fruitarian.
I didn't
But
either.
I only ate fruits, nuts, and seeds and dry fruits because I didn't know how to prepare vegetarian meals that taste good. So
Okay.
everything I tried to cook, it tasted bad. So I just
Okay.
ate fruits, watermelon, mango. I didn't eat mangoes. I didn't know what a mango was, but I ate bananas and apples and oranges and grapefruits and stuff like that. And then after about a year of that, I got introduced to yoga. And when I went to the yoga class, then I met other people who were also health conscious and who actually knew how to prepare vegan food properly to make it taste good.
Got it. So you learned along the way. Okay. Thank you for that. So, a few other questions. And, when you said the final thing you're going to say, I already knew before I began this interview with the number of years that you have, there's no final thing. I'm sure this is like you have so much to share. So, whatever you want to share, we just appreciate it. I want to go back. You'd mentioned like the nadis, you mentioned some of the differences between like Kundalini yoga and Kemetic yoga. But is there what's a core difference? Or are there core differences between Kemetic and Hatha, Vinyasa, Ashtanga, Kundalini, or any others for that matter? And I ask primarily, I've told people this over the years. I had my first yoga class in Chicago at Harold Washington College in 1996. I hated it. I fell asleep. Then I had a yoga class, a Bikram class, when I moved to New York about 2000, and I didn't like it. And it wasn't until I personally found Vinyasa yoga around 2014 did I go head into it. And then I found a Kemetic yoga class, and that remained one of my top yoga classes. I taught one online on freedomatthemat.com that people have come back for. They're just curious about it. But what I tell people all the time, Mr. Yirser, is that you find the yoga that works best for you. That there are so many times people just think yoga, they just hear it and they don't understand the differences. So you are an advocate, you are a poster child you're the creator of Kemetic yoga. So how would you advocate without denigrating the other styles, of course? How would you say it's different from the others?
Well, let me say this to preface it. There's many styles of yoga, as you have said. And a lot of those different styles of yoga have been influenced by the people that popularized those styles of yoga. So if you're doing Ashtanga yoga, that was started by a man named Patabi Joyce. So he had studied with his teacher, and then he developed his own ideas and concepts about how to get the best out of your practice. And so he came up with Ashtanga. Iyengar yoga, created by BKS Iyengar. He had the same teacher as Patabi Joyce. And he started, so there's similarities and there are differences between Ashtanga and Iyengar yoga. But he actually named his yoga Iyengar, right? Then you have Kundalini yoga, you have Bikram yoga. All of these are named, after the people that created them, right? And so all of them are yoga, all of them are good. So I have given certain innovations to Kemetic yoga. So I have built upon the foundation that I received from my teacher, and also from the foundation that I received from my experience practicing Tai Chi, my experience doing African dance, my experience doing a whole bunch of stuff, So what differentiates Kemetic yoga is that, number one, it is the philosophical foundation of it and the worldview of it comes from ancient Africa, from what we call Kemet. We don't speak, I know the Sanskrit words, but we don't speak the Sanskrit words in our system. We refer back to ancient Kemetic words.
Give us an example.
Well, we do a pose called Ma'at Ka. We do a flow sequence.
Okay.
We call it Ma'at Ka. The word Ma'at means balance, order, harmony, justice, reciprocity.
Oh.
The word Ka means spirit. So one of the reasons why we call this particular sequence Ma'at Ka is, number one, there's a posture within the sequence called Ka. And Ka means spirit. So if you was writing the word spirit in Medu Necher, in the ancient Kemetic writing that people call hieroglyphs, you would draw a person with their arms up and one foot out to the side and so on and so forth, right? And we call that Ka, means spirit. So Ma'at is a principle, it's a concept,
Right.
from which ancient Kemet the people of ancient Kemet, of ancient Egypt, they base everything on this concept of Ma'at. Everything in our lives should conform under the precepts of this concept called Ma'at. So we are supposed to live our life with justice. We are supposed to live our lives with order. We're supposed to live our lives with balance, with harmony. We want to be in harmony with each other, harmony with nature, in balance.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever a person became the king of ancient Kemet, he had to take a vow, just like how they swear in the president, he put his hand on the Bible and he say these words.
Yes, sir.
The vow in ancient Kemet, when the kings of ancient Kemet or anybody who took any high position of authority, they had to make a vow that they were going to uphold the principles of Ma'at. If Ma'at was absent, if something happened and there was no Ma'at, there was a period of time of disorder because of an invasion, because of famine, because of whatever it was. They took a vow to the creator that they was going to restore the order. They was going to restore Ma'at. And so in Kemetic yoga, we base everything on Ma'at. Okay.
Okay.
And so just like with Hatha yoga, you got the yamas and the niyamas, right?
Yes.
They're supposed to be things that you are supposed to do and things you are supposed to be framed from doing.
Correct.
So Ma'at gives us that guidance.
Got it. The balance of reciprocity, all those things.
And these are things you're supposed to manifest from within yourself, not be imposed upon you by an external power that's telling you how you should act and how you should think.
Beautiful. Repeat for us one more time. The Mat, it means the spirit of. I know the Ka is the spirit of. The Mat, balance, reciprocity. What were the other things?
Balance, justice, reciprocity, order, harmony.
Beautiful. Okay. So thank you for that. You have instructors you've trained who are throughout the world. I see you have them in Brazil. What are some of the countries where your instructors are spreading the good gospel of Kemetic yoga?
New Zealand, Australia, down under. Um, it's probably Paris. France, England, Spain, um, throughout the United States, all the islands of the Caribbean,
Okay.
um, Egypt, Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, Gambia, South Africa, Tanzania, Kenya. There's a whole bunch of places. When I was in Paris, I was invited to the Paris Yoga Convention, and when I got finished with my class, that was mostly white French people. Everybody did like this. They started applauding, right? And so, I didn't think nothing of it. But the manager, the guy who was in charge of the convention, he came to me and said, in all the years we've been doing this and all the workshops, he said, they have never, ever applauded. And he said the reason why they applauded because they was tired of doing up dog, down dog, warrior 1, 2, and 3. Because
Yeah.
that's the constant
Right.
thing that they teach. Everybody does up dog, down dog, warrior pose, blah, 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 and it's just become ubiquitous. And so Kemetic yoga offers something that's different. It offers you go to the Indian restaurant and look at the complexion of the people. I was at the Indian restaurant a few weeks ago. The people in there, they was jet black.
Yes.
And they had kind of straight hair.
Yes.
And so when you talk about, see to me, the definition of Africa is it should not be confined to that place that the European powers said is Africa and it's Egypt and Nigeria and Ghana. It should be, when you look at the cultural influence of Kemet and of Africa in general, you should go all throughout South Asia. Because we went to all those places and we influenced the development of civilization. So the first African people in India, they were called Dravidians. And they had 2 major cities that they built, which that you could still see the remnants of. And these were Black people.
So, when I think about all of that history that so many of us don't know, you promise not to laugh. I'm going to send you my Kemetic yoga video that I did. I did it when I first created the channel about 3 years ago. I was in COVID like everybody else, and I was teaching myself from home how to do Kemetic yoga. And somehow it is the top most viewed video that I have. And it's like, wait, I didn't even have formal training. So when you said that the people in Paris, they applauded you, right? Because it was something different. I think when I think about how I flowed in that class and what I was doing, it was very different from my typical, warrior 1 to warrior 3 to toppling tree and all that.
Yeah.
Are you still offering trainings? If so, where and how can my community and how can I support you?
Okay. So I offer training at our Healing Sun Kemetic Yoga Retreat in Jamaica every July and every January. So I do that. It's about 8 to 10 days. We have online course, which is self-paced. So you can go online and you can
Okay.
sign up for that course. KemeticYogaSkills.com. Everything is there.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you live in Chicago, you can come to our come to the place where we teach at, which is at Fuller Park Fieldhouse in Chicago.
Okay.
331 West 45th Street. And you
Very
can come
well.
there. We have classes there. And when you join the class, the way I teach my regular classes, they are as if I'm training people to become instructors, because I want people to have good information, not just come there and do a few poses and then get up and leave. I want them
Right.
to understand anatomy, physiology, spiritual anatomy, history, philosophy, and all that metaphysics, all of that kind of stuff. So all of that stuff is included in our classes. And you could do a combination of in-person and online. So if you join the online course, you can also, if you're not in Chicago, you can I teach a live class every Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay.
And it's in the studio and it's also online. And so if you or you can come into the studio, you can just do your whole course in the studio with us.
So I want to wrap this up by just saying Hotep, as I learned, means peace. It is such an honor, an absolute honor to be in conversation with you, to create this piece with you, to make sure that we share the word about Yirser Ra Hotep and the legacy that you've created. It just means so much. And I'm so grateful for your time. May God bless you with your continued life journey and on your travels back to Chicago.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.